If we look at the bigger picture here, we know Real Madrid have been the better team. But that's the second time in the big game that Juve have shot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the foot last year in the Champions League final when it imploded, and they shot themselves in the foot again here. One, too much space for Ronaldo, and I think it was from Marcelo for or whoever the cross came in. Isco, the cross comes in from acres of space. The right back nowhere to be seen. Centre halves get caught. Then you've got the Ronaldo goal, as special as it was. Chiellini and Buffon make an absolute pig's ear of it. Two of the most experienced players in world football. If the goalkeeper's coming out, he's got to be telling the centre half he's on his way. Yeah. Work it out who's at fault, but one of them's at fault. And then you've got the red card for Dybala. So when you throw that all into the mix, as good as Real Madrid have been in the big games against Juve recently, the Italians, have shot themselves in the foot.
Juve had chances, didn't they, in the first half? Despite conceding that early goal, they kind of got themselves back together.
I think that's a very positive attitude, Dan. Listen, the two chances they had came from set pieces. Right. In open play, Juventus were horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. And I'm not shocked that Real Madrid scored. I'm not shocked that Ronaldo scored. I'm shocked at how bad Juventus were on the ball. You know, it was really a case of let's give it to Dybala and see what he can do. Because after him, there was absolutely zero coming from anywhere.
Not enough numbers in the attack for Juventus. As Dybala and Higuain get forward, there weren't exactly overlapping runs happening on the outside. There weren't runs out of the midfield. There weren't enough people joining in the attack. And so it's really, to be quite honest with you, even if they controlled the midfield, I thought that Real Madrid were very comfortable in having Juventus right in front of them. So Varane had a good game. Sergio Ramos at times was good. You didn't really see Keylor now as being tested. And so overall for Juventus, it was a performance that is surprising because they were at home. It's surprising because they melted away, just like Craig just alluded to. They made the mistakes that they made. And you don't expect that from a team of this sort of experience. And so then you have to go back to, is this team getting used to losing against a team like Real Madrid? Right. You got to go back to Champions League final. You got to go back to the fact that, oh, here we go again. This team has our number, and we simply have no answers. That's the way they look. Lacking creativity in the final third, and when you have that, that creates frustration and that creates mistakes.
Varane's pace is...
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to admire it. I mean, he might not be in the best position all the time. He might not be the best on the ball of his teammates, but he's that ability, and it's just natural. The pace. I mean, Higuain must be sick of him, because I remember him last year in Wales trying to run away from him.
Yep.
And it wasn't
Good luck.
It wasn't even a foot race. He probably thought, well, it's just going to be about a sniff around the box, because I'm not going to run away from this guy. And of course, the man's going to take all the credit and all the headlines. But I mention again, Kroos and Modric. And Casemiro does the dirty work, but the way Kroos and Modric just glide around, when it's tight and the ball comes into them, they've always got a picture. You know, there's always a picture of if they've got space, they take a touch. If there's no space, they flip it around the corner. They're always seeing the next pass, and it's a joy to watch.
Paolo, what do you make of what the boys are saying?
I think they've been taking some of the criticism of Juventus a little bit further than I would. I think it's certainly true that the defensive slip on the first goal was shocking. I think that Juventus had talked so much about not repeating the mistakes of that final, and just to allow Ronaldo that space right at the beginning of the game was a big surprise to me. And I think perhaps also indicative of how much they missed Mehdi Benatia back there. He was obviously suspended tonight, but I think he's been easily their best central defender this season. I think him not being there had an impact. I think in terms of the way they were creatively, which the boys were alluding to, I think Miralem Pjanic likewise heavily missed. But that in itself tells you something. You know, Real Madrid were preparing for this game and asking themselves, well, who's going to start? Vázquez, Isco, Bale. So many options up there in the forward line. Whereas Juventus, at a domestic level, they feel like they have depth well beyond what all the other clubs in Italy can match. But when you get into this competition, you take out a couple of those most important players, and I think you see that they're just nowhere near the depth of a team like Real Madrid.
But you can still have Cuadrado on the bench. You can still have Marchesi on the bench. You can still have Blaise Matuidi on the bench, who they got for a good price, and Mario Mandzukic on the bench, Paolo. So it's a strong squad.
I'll tell you what else you can ask for, regardless of what name's on the back of the jersey. How about a good bout of spirit and fight and heart and soul? Because by the end of this game, there was nobody left on the stand. When the final whistle went, half the crowd had gone home, And that's because the team gave them nothing to get a hold of. I don't remember once during this game the crowd getting on its feet, getting behind the team, and looking as though Juventus were in this game. What happened to good old heart and soul? Never mind depth or the names on the back of the jerseys.
How do you know? You were eating a cake at the time.
Because there was no game to watch.
The only time you stopped eating the cake was that overhead cake.
I tell you what, I think half the Juventus team were eating cake and all during the game.
Hey, there was a lot of heart and soul when you were eating that cake, though. It's a lot of
Let's take a look at the SPI. Remember, the second leg is next week.
Oh, the SPI.
Santiago Bernabeu.
Oh,
Real
dear.
Madrid 98% to once again make it through to the semi-finals.
See how
A
happy he is.
comeback for Juventus. Remember, no Sergio Ramos, though.
Oh.
He is suspended. There will be, though, this man. Look at this run that he has gone. Scored in 10 straight Champions League matches. You take it all the way back to the final in Cardiff.